My family left me out over my craft phase business. I reclaimed my legacy on a Forbes CEO cover. The crystal chandelier cast judgmental shadows across my parents' formal dining room as I took my usual seat, the one furthest from my father's position at the head of the table. The family emergency meeting invitation had arrived yesterday, written in my mother's perfect cursive, dripping with the kind of concern that felt more like criticism. "Olivia, darling," my mother's voice carried that familiar note of disappointment as she adjusted the elaborate flower centerpiece. "You could have at least worn something more presentable." I glanced down at my simple white shirt and black pants. The outfit probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, but they'd never know that. Just like they'd never bothered to ask what I really did with my little online business for the past 4 years. My sister Victoria swept in, designer heels clicking against the hardwood floors, Hermes bag swinging from her arm. As the CFO of our father's investment firm, she was everything I supposedly wasn't: successful, ambitious, properly focused on the family legacy. "Still running that little Etsy shop or whatever it is?" She smirked, settling into her chair. "Selling homemade crafts to bored housewives?" I took a slow sip of water, letting her words roll off me like they had for years. If she only knew about the meeting I'd had this morning with the Forbes editorial team or the photo shoot scheduled for tomorrow. "Let's get started," my father announced, his voice carrying the weight of 30 years as CEO of Harrison Financial Group. "We're here because we're concerned about Olivia's situation." There was my situation. That's what they'd been calling my decision to leave a proper corporate job and start my own company. 4 years of subtle jabs, worried phone calls, and not-so-subtle hints about real careers with actual benefits. "The family reputation is important," my mother added, wringing her hands. "And frankly, dear, this phase of yours, it's beginning to affect our standing in certain circles." I thought about the acquisition papers sitting in my real office, not the small home office they'd never visited, but the entire top floor of the glass tower downtown, the documents that would shake the financial world to its core in exactly 2 hours. "We've been patient," Victoria chimed in, examining her manicure. "Hoping you'd come to your senses, return to a respectable position, maybe even join the family firm." My phone buzzed silently. A message from Marcus, my COO. "Everything's set. Press embargo lifts at 6 p.m. I checked my watch. 1 hour and 57 minutes until everything changed. "The thing is, sweetheart," Dad leaned forward, his voice taking on that patronizing tone he used with difficult clients. "We found you a position. Junior analyst at Harrison Financial. You can start Monday." I studied his face, wondering if he'd even recognize the woman who would be featured in tomorrow's business section, the one they were calling a visionary, a market disruptor, the future of financial technology. "Did you know," I said carefully, "that Forbes is announcing their most powerful women list today?" Victoria waved her hand dismissively. "Of course, I've been shortlisted 3 years running." She hadn't, but no one corrected her, though I doubt that's relevant to your craft business. "Actually," my mother interrupted, "we need to discuss something more immediate. The country club board meeting is tomorrow, and people have been asking questions about what you do." I bit back a smile, thinking of the country club, the same one my company had quietly purchased last month through a subsidiary, along with half the properties in their precious gated community. "What do you tell them?" I asked innocently. "Well," she flustered, "we tried to be vague. It's easier than explaining that our daughter sells—" "What is it you sell exactly?" "Financial technology solutions," I said simply. "Shopify websites for small businesses," Victoria corrected with a smirk. "Let's call it what it is." My phone buzzed again. "Marcus, news outlets are prepped. Your profile's going live in major financial papers simultaneously with the Forbes announcement. The point is," Dad cut in, "this has gone on long enough. You're 32 years old, Olivia. Time to join the real world." "The real world?" I repeated softly, thinking of my company's current valuation, the one that would make headlines in less than 2 hours. "Yes, the real world," Victoria emphasized, "where success is measured in actual numbers, not Instagram likes." Just then, everyone's phones chimed simultaneously. "Breaking news alerts. Major financial technology acquisition to be announced at 6 p.m. Sources say largest deal in industry history." "Speaking of real numbers," I murmured, watching Victoria scramble to read the alert. "How's Harrison Financial's tech division performing these days?" Dad frowned, glancing at his phone. We're holding our own, though this announcement might affect market positioning. Quite. I raised an eyebrow. An acquisition this size will redefine the entire industry. Every financial institution will have to adapt or become obsolete. And how would you know that? Victoria scoffed. From your extensive experience selling digital templates? I stood slowly, smoothing my simple white shirt. I should head back to the office. Busy evening ahead. Sit down, Dad commanded. We're not finished discussing your future. Actually, I gathered my things. I think the future is about to discuss itself. As I walked to the door, my mother called out, "Don't forget about the junior analyst position. They need an answer by tomorrow." I paused at the threshold, allowing myself one small smile. "I'm afraid I'll have to decline. I have a board meeting tomorrow." "My board?" "Your what?" Victoria's voice rose an octave. But I was already walking out, leaving them to their confusion. In less than 2 hours, they'd learn exactly what I'd built while they were busy undermining me. The next hour passed in a blur of final preparations. In my actual office, the penthouse suite of Genesis Tower, I reviewed the press release one last time while Marcus coordinated with our PR team. "They have no idea, do they?" he asked, adjusting his tie. "That you're about to become the youngest female CEO of a Fortune 500 company." I thought about Victoria's smirk, my mother's embarrassment, my father's condescension. "They're about to know everything," I replied, standing to face the wall of windows overlooking the city. Time to rewrite their story about me. At exactly 5:55 p.m., I stepped into the elevator. Marcus handed me a small folder, the only prop I'd need for what came next. "Your sister's been calling," he said. "Apparently, she's seeing some strange market movements in Harrison Financial's stock." I smiled. "Tell her to keep watching. The real movement hasn't even started." The elevator doors opened to reveal a lobby packed with reporters, cameras, and financial analysts. A podium waited at the center, the Genesis Financial Technologies logo displayed prominently behind it. As I walked to the podium, my phone buzzed one last time. A message from Dad. "Something big is happening in the fintech sector. Could affect our market position. Perhaps we should discuss that analyst role sooner rather than later." I slipped the phone into my pocket without replying. He'd find out soon enough exactly how the market was about to change. The cameras flashed as I took my place. Somewhere across the city in my parents' formal dining room, my family was probably gathered around Victoria's phone, waiting to see who this mystery buyer was. I smiled directly into the cameras, knowing the moment had finally arrived. "Good evening," I began, my voice clear and confident. "I'm Olivia Harrison, CEO of Genesis Financial Technologies." The rest would be history. The aftermath was immediate and electric. As I concluded the press conference, announcing not just Genesis Financial Technologies' $8.2 billion acquisition of our largest competitor, but also our revolutionary AI-driven banking platform, my phone exploded with notifications. 52 missed calls from Dad, 38 from Mom, 67 from Victoria, 241 text messages and counting. I sat in my office watching the city lights flicker to life while Marcus brought in the evening's news coverage. Tech prodigy Olivia Harrison emerges as fintech's newest power player. Genesis Financial's AI banking platform reshapes industry. Harrison Financial Group faces uncertain future as competitor falls to founder's daughter. "Your father's on his third attempt to get past security," Marcus reported, setting down a fresh espresso. "Victoria's threatened to call the police if we don't let her up." I picked up my phone, scanning the messages. From Dad, "What have you done? This is impossible. Call me immediately." From Mom, "Darling, we're all so proud. Why didn't you tell us? The country club board will be thrilled." From Victoria, "You manipulative little... How long have you been planning this? This is sabotage." "Miss Harrison," my assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The Forbes photographer is here for tomorrow's cover shoot." I stood, moving to the window. From here, I could see Harrison Financial's headquarters, the building where I'd once been offered a junior analyst position, where Victoria still thought she ruled the financial world. "Send him up," I replied. "And Marcus, bring me the market analysis from today's trading." The numbers were staggering. Genesis's stock had soared 40% after my announcement. Our AI banking platform was being hailed as revolutionary, and Harrison Financial, while they'd lost 25% of their value in 2 hours. My phone rang. The private line only 5 people had access to. The caller ID showed Elizabeth Chin, Forbes editor-in-chief. "Olivia," she said warmly when I answered, "the story's ready for tomorrow. The Silent Revolution, how Olivia Harrison built a financial empire while her family wasn't looking. Any last quotes you'd like to add?" I thought about that afternoon's family meeting, about all the meetings before it, where they dismissed and diminished me. "Just one," I replied. "Success doesn't need permission, it just needs patience." After the photo shoot, Marcus brought in the latest analysis. 3 major banks had already reached out about implementing our AI platform. 6 more wanted partnership discussions. "Your sister's giving interviews," he noted, pulling up a financial news channel, trying to spin this as some kind of family collaboration. On screen, Victoria stood outside Harrison Financial's headquarters, her perfect composure cracking slightly. "Of course, we knew about Olivia's venture. The Harrison family has always supported innovation." I muted the TV. "Send her the cease and desist letter. No unauthorized statements about Genesis or my role here. Already done. Also, your mother's posted 7 times on social media about her brilliant daughter who takes after me." I smiled wryly. Funny how quickly craft business becomes brilliant venture when the numbers have 9 zeros. A knock at my door interrupted us. "Miss Harrison, your father's here again. He's brought your grandfather." That made me pause. Alexander Harrison Sr., the patriarch who'd started Harrison Financial Group 40 years ago, the man who'd first taught me about market patterns and financial strategies before my father and sister decided I wasn't suited for finance. "Send them up," I said after a moment's consideration. "And Marcus, get me the Harrison Financial acquisition proposal." While waiting, I studied my reflection in the window, still wearing that simple white shirt that had so disappointed my mother this afternoon. Amazing how different the same outfit looked when framed by a billion-dollar view. The door opened. Dad stepped in first, looking smaller somehow in my vast office, but Grandpa walked in with a hint of a smile playing at his lips. "The quiet one," he said softly, looking around at my empire. "Always watching, always learning. I wondered when you'd show them." Dad's head snapped up. "You knew?" "Known since she was 12. Grandpa eased himself into a chair. "When she corrected my market analysis over breakfast, you were too busy praising Victoria's new haircut to notice." I sat behind my desk, watching my father struggle to reconcile his narrative about me with the reality before him. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why the deception?" "Deception?" I echoed. "I built this company openly, filed all the proper paperwork, even used our family name. You just never bothered to look beyond your own assumptions. But your little online business was a subsidiary, one small part of Genesis that I let you see. The perfect cover for a family that wouldn't understand or accept what I was really building." Grandpa chuckled. "And now you own the country club where they wouldn't even give you a full membership." Dad's head snapped up again. "What?" "Genesis acquired it last month," I confirmed, "along with most of the properties in that gated community you're so proud of. Amazing what you can buy when no one takes you seriously enough to check the buyer's identity. This will destroy Harrison Financial," Dad said quietly. "No," I corrected, sliding a folder across the desk. "This will save it, if you're smart enough to take the offer." He opened the folder with trembling hands, reading the acquisition proposal I'd had prepared for weeks. "A merger," he whispered. "Harrison Financial becomes part of Genesis," I explained. "You keep the name, keep some autonomy, but ultimately join the future instead of fighting it. And if we refuse?" I pulled up our AI platform demo on my screen. "Then you compete against technology that's already revolutionizing banking, against a company that's now worth 4 times yours, against the future itself. Victoria will never accept this," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Victoria just lost your 3 biggest clients to us this afternoon," I replied calmly. "They signed transfer papers right after my press conference. She doesn't have to accept it. The board will do that for her." Grandpa leaned forward, eyes twinkling. "You've orchestrated quite a checkmate, my dear." "I learned from the best." I smiled at him. "You always said to watch the quiet ones. They see everything while everyone else is busy talking." A knock interrupted us. Marcus with more market updates. Genesis stock was up another 15% in after-hours trading. Harrison Financial had been downgraded by 3 major analysts. "Think about the offer," I told my father as he stood to leave. "You have until morning. After that, the terms become less generous." At the door, he paused. That junior analyst position was beneath me 4 years ago, I finished for him, just like it was beneath me today. The difference is, now you know why. After they left, I turned back to the window, watching the city sparkle beneath me. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more family drama, more attempts to rewrite history. But for now, sitting in my office in my simple white shirt, I was exactly where I needed to be. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's letting them realize they never really knew you at all. The morning after my revelation dawned bright and cold, much like the reception waiting for me in the business world. The Forbes cover had dropped at midnight, my face wearing that same simple white shirt, above the headline, "The Silent Revolution, How a Daughter Built an Empire While Her Family Built Excuses." I arrived at Genesis Tower early, passing through the crowd of reporters still camped outside. Inside my office, Marcus waited with the morning briefing. "Victoria is on CNBC, he reported, trying to claim she was your secret mentor all along. Says she guided your development from behind the scenes." I sipped my coffee, watching the interview on mute. My sister looked polished as ever, but there was a desperation in her eyes that even perfect makeup couldn't hide. "And the numbers, Genesis stock up another 30% at opening. Harrison Financial," he paused, "down 45%. Their board is meeting in an hour to discuss our merger offer." My phone buzzed. A text from Mom, "Darling, the country club is absolutely buzzing. I've already been approached about joining 3 charity boards. When can we schedule a proper family photo shoot for the society pages?" I deleted it without responding. "Your grandfather's here," my assistant announced through the intercom, "and he's brought some interesting documents." Grandpa walked in carrying a worn leather briefcase I remembered from my childhood, the one he'd used to teach me about market analysis while everyone else was busy praising Victoria's latest accomplishments. "Thought you might want these," he said, laying out old papers on my desk. "Your first market prediction model, age 12, the one that correctly forecast the 2008 crash 3 months before it happened." I picked up the faded papers covered in my careful childhood handwriting. "You kept these?" "Along with every business proposal you wrote in high school. The AI banking concept you developed in college." He smiled. "The same AI system that's now worth billions. Does Dad know you had these?" He never asked. Too busy grooming Victoria to be his mirror image. Grandpa sat down heavily. "They're voting on your offer right now." "You know, at Harrison Financial," I nodded, pulling up the live feed from their boardroom on my screen. Benefits of owning the building's security system. Another acquisition they'd never noticed. Victoria stood at the head of the table, gesturing frantically. Even without audio, I could read her lips. "This is a hostile takeover. We can't let her win." Speaking of winning, Grandpa nodded toward my phone. "Your mother's redecorated her social media with your Forbes cover, though she's carefully cropped out the part where you mentioned their lack of support." "Some things never change," I murmured, just as my assistant buzzed again. "Miss Harrison, the Harrison Financial Board vote is in." I straightened in my chair, watching the feed. The board chairman was standing now. Victoria slumped in her seat, Dad staring blankly ahead. "They accepted," my assistant confirmed. "Full merger, your terms. They want to announce immediately to stop their stock's decline." Grandpa chuckled. "Well played, my dear. Now what?" "Now," I pressed the intercom, "send in the transition team. And, Marcus, start the integration protocol we discussed." Within hours, Genesis teams were moving through Harrison Financial's offices. Victoria was escorted out. She'd be offered a position eventually, but not before she learned some humility. Dad was named Chairman Emeritus, a title with prestige but no power. As for me, I had an empire to run. The next few weeks transformed both companies. Our AI platform revolutionized Harrison's outdated systems. The merged entity's stock soared. And my family, well, they learned to live with a new kind of daughter. Mom stopped arranging suitable marriages and started asking about suitable investments. Victoria, stripped of her CFO title but learning actual finance in a junior role, discovered she had talents when she wasn't just playing politics. A month after the merger, I stood in my office reviewing the latest success metrics when my assistant announced one final visitor. "Your sister's here. Says it's important." Victoria walked in looking different somehow. The designer labels were gone, replaced by simple professional attire. The arrogance had faded from her stance. "I've been going through the AI platform documentation," she said without preamble. "It's brilliant. I never understood what you were trying to explain all those years ago." "You never tried to understand," I corrected gently. "None of you did." She nodded slowly. "I know, and I'm sorry. Not because you won, but because I wasted years trying to be Dad's copy instead of learning to be myself." I studied her for a moment. "The junior analyst position is still open. The real one, not the fake one they offered me." "Interested? You trust me? After everything?" "Trust is earned," I replied, "just like success. Are you ready to earn both?" She straightened, and for the first time I saw something of myself in her stance. "Yes, I am." "Then welcome to Genesis." I held out my hand. "Leave your assumptions at the door." That evening, I added the Forbes cover to my wall of achievements, right next to those childhood market predictions Grandpa had saved. Below it, I hung a simple white shirt, framed, the one from that last family meeting. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus about tomorrow's Global Finance Summit where I'd be giving the keynote speech. The topic, the power of being underestimated, how silence builds success. I smiled, remembering all those family dinners where they talked over me, around me, through me. They never noticed that the quiet one taking notes was actually taking control. Their mistake. My legacy. And as I looked out over my city, watching the lights come on in buildings I now owned, I knew this was just the beginning. Because sometimes success isn't about proving your family wrong. It's about proving yourself right, even when no one else believes you can. 6 months later, Genesis had become the largest financial technology company in the world. Our AI platform had revolutionized banking. Victoria was excelling in her new role, learning to build her own success instead of copying others. And my parents, well, they'd learned to ask about my achievements instead of assuming my failures. As for me, I kept that simple white shirt as a reminder, not of where I came from, but of how far I'd gone while they weren't looking. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't in proving people wrong, it's in building something so right that they can't help but acknowledge their own mistakes. And I was just getting started. Looking back on that crystal-lit dining room, I still feel the chill of those judgmental shadows crawling across my skin. For years, I sat in silence at that table, absorbing every dismissive word like a sponge. Words that labeled me the family's phase, the eternal disappointment in a simple white shirt. But tonight, 6 months after the world learned my name, I want to peel back the layers of that silence and share what truly churned inside me, the raw, electric cocktail of pain, patience, and quiet triumph that built Genesis while my family built excuses. The hurt was the first ingredient, sharp and unrelenting. Every smirk from Victoria, every sigh from Mother, every patronizing sweetheart from Dad carved another notch into my heart. I wasn't angry in the explosive way people expect. I was angry in the slow burn way that forges steel. When Victoria mocked my Etsy shop, I felt the sting of being reduced to a hobbyist in the eyes of the people whose approval I once craved. I remember clutching my water glass so tightly my knuckles went white, forcing a neutral smile while my mind catalogued every insult. Those moments weren't wasted, they became data points in the algorithm of my resolve. Each barb taught me where their blind spots were, and I mapped them meticulously. Beneath the hurt lay a deeper ache, the loneliness of being unseen. I built Genesis in the margins of their attention, late nights in a rented co-working space, weekends debugging code while they attended galas. I celebrated my first $1 million quarter alone with takeout tie and a single candle. No one asked how my little online business was doing because they assumed it was trivial. That isolation could have broken me, but instead it gifted me clarity. Without their expectations weighing me down, I could experiment, fail, pivot, and rise without an audience ready to pounce. The loneliness became my laboratory, the silence my superpower. Patience was the discipline I cultivated like a rare orchid. I learned to measure success in years, not quarters. When Dad offered me that junior analyst role, I saw the trap, a gilded cage where I'd forever be the daughter who came to her senses. Declining it wasn't rebellion, it was strategy. I needed them to underestimate me until the numbers were undeniable. Every time I swallowed a retort, every time I let Victoria's barbs slide, I was buying time. The acquisition papers, the AI patents, the Forbes cover, They weren't lucky breaks, they were the compound interest on 4 years of restrained responses and relentless work. Patience transformed my pain into momentum. Then came the electric surge of vindication, the moment the embargo lifted and the cameras flashed. Standing at that podium, I felt every suppressed emotion rush to the surface, the hurt transmuted into authority, the loneliness into connection with millions who'd been dismissed, the patience into power. When Dad's text arrived, "Something big is happening in fintech," I didn't feel petty satisfaction. I felt a profound, almost maternal sorrow for the narrative he'd clung to. He wasn't evil. He was trapped in a story where only his version of success mattered. My victory wasn't in crushing him, it was in expanding the definition of what a Harrison could be. The sweetest emotion, though, has been the unexpected grace that followed. Watching Victoria trade designer armor for genuine curiosity, seeing her eyes light up when she finally grasped the AI platform's elegance, that was redemption I never scripted. When Grandpa revealed he'd saved my childhood predictions, I cried in my office bathroom, mascara streaking that same white shirt. His faith had been the quiet ember keeping me warm through the coldest dismissals. And Mom's frantic charity board texts? Beneath the social climbing, I sense a flicker of awe she doesn't know how to express. These reconciliations aren't perfect, but they're human, and they heal the parts of me that success alone couldn't touch. Tonight, as Genesis Tower's lights reflect in my coffee, I feel a new emotion settling in: responsibility. The girl who once hid behind silence now speaks to thousands at summits, mentoring women who wear simple shirts and carry billion-dollar dreams. My story isn't just revenge, it's a blueprint. If I can build an empire while being told I was crafting coasters, imagine what others can do when they stop seeking permission. The white shirt hangs framed on my wall, no longer a symbol of their disappointment but of my defiance. It reminds me that emotions, hurt, loneliness, patience, triumph, aren't misses to suppress, they're the raw materials of revolution. I didn't just prove my family wrong, I proved that the quiet ones, the underestimated ones, the ones who feel too much, we're the ones who redraw the world. And that truth, more than any valuation or headline, is the legacy I carry forward. The best revenge isn't destruction, it's becoming so undeniably yourself that the old stories crumble in your light.